Good evening and thank you for joining me on Black News Tonight. I'm Marc Lamont Hill. Tonight we start with an update on the trial of Kim Potter, the former suburban Minneapolis police officer charged with first and second degree manslaughter for shooting and killing 20-year-old Daunte Wright during a routine traffic stop in Brooklyn Center. Only one juror out of the 12 likely to hear the case against Potter identifies as black, as 9 of the jurors seated in the trial are white, and the other 2 identify as Asian. In the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer who was convicted and sentenced to prison for murdering George Floyd, 4 of the 12 seated jurors were black and 6 were white. Potter shot Wright as he tried to drive away from a traffic stop on April 11th. But her defense claims Potter mistook her handgun for her taser during the fatal incident. Opening statements are scheduled to begin next week. A superintendent in North Dakota is making headlines after sending an anti-critical race theory tirade to school administrators across the state. According to Newsweek, Starkweather Public School District Superintendent Larry Volk sent an email critical of CRT to school administrators at the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders. In the email, he said in part that critical race theory is a bigoted, politically distorted view of American history that uses racist language. The backlash over CRT continues to persist, with 9 states having already banned critical race theory, including North Dakota, according to the Brookings Institution. We turn now to Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis has proposed to reestablish the Florida State Guard, a civilian military force that he says would be under his control. The Florida State Guard was first created during World War II, but was later disbanded in 1947. If the state moves forward with reestablishing the force, Florida will have been the 23rd state to have a state guard. One of the duties of the military force would be to, quote, assist the civil authorities in maintaining law and order in situations like this. Well, all 3 stories you just heard leave us with a lot to discuss and to unpack. So we're going to take some time to do that right now with our returning guest, Dr. Yohuru Williams. He's offering a critical analysis and valuable content as always. My brother, thank you for joining me. Of course, he is a professor of history and the founding director of the Racial Justice Initiative at the University of St. Thomas. Welcome back to the show. Let's start with the jury selection in the trial of Kim Potter. The panel of jurors and alternates includes only 3 people of color and only 1 black person. Should that concern us?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think we got lucky with the Chauvin trial, with the representation that was there. 4 jurors of color was unique for Hennepin County. In fact, this is a county that's 74% white. So that selection in this particular case is more representative of the makeup of the county as a whole. I think that the real concern here for some people was, well, if you don't have a diverse jury, well, will there be some jury nullification? Are they more likely to believe that Kim Potter acted in a way that wasn't negligent? But I think Keith Ellison has been fairly clear here in putting together a case that points to precedent here in establishing that what she did was negligent. And so I'm a little less concerned about the jury makeup here. I think there's a very strong case that you're looking at with regard to Officer Potter's actions.
It's an important observation you make about the relationship between the demographics and the actual jury pool. But is the process of jury selection also unfair to working class people, especially people of color, who can't afford the loss of income or who have childcare issues? Race obviously plays into that, but even in terms of the class dimensions of who gets to be on these juries.
Absolutely. I mean, such a great point, and we often forget that. So when you talk about jurors who articulate concerns about not being able to take time off, there was one juror who, during the voir dire this week, talked about working for an employer Target, where he said, well, I'm sure they'll be able to extend time off. They've done this in the past for employees, but this person was a middle manager. For the vast majority of people who are working in lower level jobs, and that's going to be, for the most part, people of color, particularly in urban areas like the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, that becomes a real challenge when you're talking about seating a diverse jury. They can't afford to take that time off, and they're certainly not going to be able to make, jury selection is not in and of itself a lucrative enterprise. People take a hit when they serve on juries.
You talk about voir dire, which is part of the process of jury selection. Was there anything else in the selection of the panel itself that made you concerned?
I was a little interested. I found some of the responses of some of the potential jurors interesting in that it was very clear they were angling to be on this jury. And that was a stark difference from what we saw in the Chauvin trial. I think that people in this moment really recognize that this is going to be a huge stage. It's going to occupy a lot of attention. I questioned some of the jurors who were selected because it just seemed that they were really trying to make the case for why they would be good jurors, but it seemed more an interest in being part of history as opposed to really delivering justice in this particular case. I did not get that sense watching the premiere for the Chauvin trial.
Let's move over to North Dakota. We have a public school superintendent attacking critical race theory and calling for a Christian republic. First of all, isn't the establishment of state religion kind of against, I don't know, the Constitution?
Last time I checked, Mark, and I thought this whole thing was comical. First, this gentleman claims that he sent the email by accident, but if you look at the text of it, I mean, this is really disturbing. So he lashes out at critical race theory. He talks about the godless Democrats, talks about, really returning to our Christian heritage. The interesting thing is that one of the things that I found comical is he says, well, we're going to teach American history through documents and the founders in their own words. So I hope that means that they're going to be teaching Notes on Virginia by Thomas Jefferson to talk about the problem of race in the words of Thomas Jefferson. If they're actually teaching history and social studies in the way that he suggests, then they're going to have to deal with elements of race and how this, our republic was founded on ideas of racial white supremacy. So it was just curious in so many ways. What was really surprising to me is that Chris Berg, the school board president, even after Volt came out and said this was an accident, wholeheartedly 100% endorsed his comments, which was just mind-boggling. He could have walked away from this. And that to me says a lot about this rural school district. Certainly we know that North Dakota has already banned critical race theory. So this is just another chapter in the culture wars and the white whale that conservatives have created, literally the white whale that conservatives have created around critical race theory.
It's interesting now that they're positioning the critical race theory debate against Christianity. So now they're not just framing it as anti-democratic, anti-American, but now they're saying it's anti-Christian. Do you understand the logic of this argument?
I don't, but it's just so consistent with the playbook. Again, we think about the Ku Klux Klan of the 1920s, the great fraternal organization of the 1920s, and they cloaked their message in religion. So you see them really in a very desperate way, but in a way that's consistent with the history of white supremacy in this country, linking this to everything from the protection of womanhood and virtue in the family to Christian principles and Christian heritage to anti-blackness and anti-immigration. So this to me is just par for the course. I mean, I was not surprised at all by the tenor of the email. In this day and time when we're so used to people being at least editing what they say, I think it was a good reminder to a lot of folks that there are a lot of people in flyover America who aren't buying into this reimagination of the way that we deal with issues of racial justice in our larger society.
All right, before you go, let's talk about Governor DeSantis real quick, because he's calling to restore the Florida State Guard. Other states have state guards, but they're usually used to respond to disasters. Governor DeSantis, it seems like he has a different plan. When he starts talking about gathering civilians and giving them the right to defend and assist with civil authority and all that stuff, it sounds like a lynch mob. It sounds like I don't know, some kind of civilian militia. It scares the hell out of me. Am I being too dramatic here?
No, we apparently we go to the same church, Mark, because that was my response as well. My thought was immediately this felt a lot like, shades of January 6th. Why does he need this guard in this way? Now, a couple of things. There are three kind of motivations here. The first is that he claims, or some people are viewing this as, an attempt to evade the orders by the federal government to compel guardsmen to be vaccinated. But secondly, and I think this is very important, DeSantis is just playing to a national audience. I think he's considering a run for president in 2024. And if you appeal to the idea of the military and, I'm going to support the military, I'm going to support our police, that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And also it gives him the position to look like he is supporting, the military, but also, as you indicated, being tough on crime. He mentioned national disasters. We also know that for African Americans, when we think about the National Guard, when we think about state guards, they're mostly coming out to support law enforcement during urban unrest. I'm not in any way decoupling that from the last year.
Absolutely. It's impossible to decouple it. Anyway, Yohuru, thank you so much for joining me. Your comments insightful as always. Everybody, make sure you join the conversation as well. We want to hear from you. So head over to our BNC Instagram and Twitter pages. Let us know how you feel. Also visit our website, bnc.tv, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out clips from the show.